Post-Rugby World Cup rankings. These will stay this way for a while. Probably until the Six Nations, I guess, with no real major competitions on between now and then. But the Six Nations is not all that far away. I thought we'll have a look at how they are sitting at the moment and how have they changed for the teams over the course of the Rugby World Cup. So how did they go into the Rugby World Cup, where were they ranked, and when did they end up finishing up? I'm still yet to do a video on how the world rankings work. It is Googleable, of course, like everything these days, but it'll be a nice little fun one to do. But basically, during the Rugby World Cup, points are doubled for wins. So the teams that ended up winning ended up at the top of the log. So start with number one. It is that world champion Springboks team. How does that feel, South African fans, to be saying world champs? 94.19 is the Springboks ranking. Believe it or not, going into the Rugby World Cup, they were only the fourth ranked team on 87.34. So it's been quite the run, and fair enough, they finish top of the log. Big changes. So still watching their coaching situation with interest, with Rassie moving on to Director of Rugby, but number one spot for the Springboks. New Zealand, the All Blacks, 92.11. They actually finish higher than they were in terms of points before the Rugby World Cup, but the same position. They were second going into the Rugby World Cup. They were on 89.4, now 92.11. That final win over Wales probably giving them a wee boost, because I think going into that third place game, they were lower down. It was England and South Africa who were 1 and 2 at the time. England are at number 3, 88.82. Going into the World Cup, they were in the same position and on a very similar number, 88.13. So it ended up finishing pretty much where it started. You could argue that because England finished runners-up, they should be second in the world. They beat the All Blacks, who are a team ahead of them. But I guess just the way the world rankings work, because it's double points, they finish on a loss, so they end up dropping, whereas the All Blacks, with that third place game against Wales, end up one spot ahead. Fourth is Wales, 85.02. They went into the World Cup in fifth, but actually they were on higher points. They were on 87.32. So it's kind of interesting how that worked out for Wales. I guess up overall is a pretty good thing. We'll see how they go into the Six Nations. They've had injury woes. I've seen some of those guys are now out for their clubs as well, which is pretty unfortunate. So it could be a bit of a new look Wales side. I mean, depending on how some of these guys come back from injury, but with Pivac taking over as coach, definitely be one to watch. Ireland are probably one of the bigger losers on this board, because they end up in fifth, 84.45. They went into the tournament in first place and finished up going out in the quarterfinals. So 89.47 is what they went in on. 84.45 is what they come out on. So it's a bit of a drop. It was definitely a disappointing campaign. Watched a little bit of the stuff on off the ball, and there still seems to be a bit of dissecting going on of what went wrong with Ireland's campaign. But again, new coach and Andy Farrell going into the Six Nations, so we'll see if he's able to kind of give them another boost. Probably a year too early for the Irish, you would have to say. But yep, that is what it is. Australia steady on in sixth, 81.9. Going into the tournament, 84.05, so lower score, but same position. France, 80.88. They were actually in 8th before the Rugby World Cup, so they ended up going up a spot but making the quarterfinals, 79.72 before the World Cup. And then if you round it off with Japan, up to 8th, they were in 10th before the Rugby World Cup, I guess with that loss to the Springboks leading into things. 79.28 up from 76.7. That's your top 8. That's just the way the world rankings work. All of those top 8 teams made the quarterfinals. The rest did not. That's just kind of how it plays out with the way the world rankings work during the Rugby World Cup. So Scotland, who were in 7th, dropped down to 9th. Argentina, interestingly, I guess, finishing on that final win, despite not having their best run at the World Cup, actually end up up from 11th, so it's up one spot for them. Fiji went into the World Cup on a pretty good spot with 9, but they end up down. Italy end up going up. They avoided that game against the All Blacks, I suppose. I'm not sure how that would have counted for points. Italy were in 14th. Tonga are up. Tonga, I think, performed much better than their pre-World Cup World Cup tournament form. So I guess kudos to those guys. They're up from 15th. And Georgia, who the last one I have room for. Well, actually, I've got a lot more room. I could have kept going. I'm used to going 7 and 7. Yeah, Georgia were down from 12th and finished off on 14th. So yeah, that's the top 14 teams in the world. For the rest of them, after Georgia, Samoa 15, other World Cup teams, USA 17. USA had a big drop down from 13th. Uruguay 18, they are up one spot from 19th. Russia 20, stayed steady on 20. Canada 21 are now we're actually up from 22. That's surprising. And Namibia 22. Now they were 23. So yeah, those are your World Cup teams. Don't think I missed any there, but yeah, South Africa top of the log, and will be for a while. That's what you get when you win the World Cup. So it's been kind of interesting watching the world rankings recently, because previous years it's just been New Zealand without change, and then we've had so much change in the last few weeks. Pre-tournament you had Wales at number 1, then you had Ireland at number 1. I think during the tournament you had England at number 1. You had I think New Zealand at number 1. So it's been really all over the shop, but fittingly it works that the number 1 team is the team that won the World Cup. So yeah. You guys let me know your thoughts on the rankings. How well do you think they fit the way the teams performed? And yeah, a bit of a break from international rugby now, and we get onto some club stuff, which will be a nice change of pace. Southern Hemisphere guys get a wee rest. Northern Hemisphere guys straight back into it, literally, for some of them. The Rugby World Cup Dream Team video is recorded. It is currently with my man Jordan for editing, so that will possibly be my last Rugby World Cup related video. We'll see. But yeah, cheers guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.